Good day to you all. This is Marduks Musing, and today we're with Dorje, and as usual, and we're gonna do the full moon for Monday. This is May 12th, and you want to say hello, Dorje?
Hello, everybody. Dorje from Art Astrology, www.artastrology.com. And looking forward to talking about this full moon. It's, I think, really impactful geopolitically, but not maybe so much in the United States. I think it's coming from the new moon in Taurus, which, if you think about it, Taurus is very symbolic of the nation of India. And India is because India is like, relates to Brahman, the bull, right? Taurus, the bull. It's also Taurus is associated with the Buddha. There's a number of people who believe that Buddha was born a Taurus because of his association with wealth. When he was young, he was very wealthy. He was a prince, and then he went to seek ultimate peace, which is another Taurus theme. And then, of course, he lived in India too. And so then there's just this high degree of symbolism having to do with India. And then the new moon is in Scorpio. I mean, the full moon is in Scorpio. And the full moon in Scorpio implies Mars and war and turmoil. And there happens to be a large war going on between India and Pakistan, which isn't getting a lot of play in American mainstream media, but it sure is in India and Pakistan, and they're having these giant air battles between
That's over
fighter
Kashmir, right?
aircraft over Kashmir. I mean, it's been over Kashmir for ever since the two countries divided. And then earlier today, there while the moon is in Libra, after a bunch of air skirmishes last night, and the moon in Libra is in an air sign, then there was this announcement that there was a peace deal had been brokered, and Trump came out and tweeted on Truth Social that he brokered a peace deal or the US brokered a peace deal. But I put out last night, I looked at the chart and I was like, I don't think they're through this yet, because if something starts and this particular round of the conflict started like really gearing up with a terrorist attack that occurred 3 weeks ago in India. If something starts around the new moon, it culminates at the full moon. So we hadn't hit that full moon culmination point yet. And so then the peace deal seems to have fallen apart, and now they're going back and forth, shelling each other again on the border of Kashmir. So then, I think this full moon, it'll be really interesting to look at this full moon, not only from a personal perspective, but also from a geopolitical perspective.
And so I'll add to that that this full moon in Scorpio, it's in Scorpio, and the effect of a full moon is for a good 2 weeks until the new moon.
Hmm.
And so this is going to drag out. I kind of hear what you're saying and align with it. That makes sense. It's not going to be that easy.
Do you want to pull up the chart for the full moon, and let's see if we can kind of delineate some ways that it might be playing out? Because we also have to remember that Uranus is just sitting right now on Algol um,
Right.
in Taurus. So this full moon is basically, I mean, it's 6 degrees off, but it's opposing that Uranus in Taurus right now, sitting on Algol. So it's a very destructive full moon.
Right. And it's geopolitically, it's hitting, there's a lot of Leo ascendants. Putin is a Scorpio ascendant. I mean, so a lot of fixed ascendants here politically that are going to be being affected, political leaders and countries in terms of their ascendants. So this is the whole playing out of the fixed signs, as we're seeing this year with Pluto in Aquarius. But here right away, this is the chart for 1255. This is Washington, D.C. And as you guys can see, Leo is on the ascendant. It's not in Mars, but Mars is in the first house, according to whole sign here. And then we have the moon. It's a full moon, so we have moon in Scorpio opposing Uranus. Now it's conjunct Thetis. That's the asteroid that I added. And
Hmm.
I don't even know how I added it, to be honest. But somehow it came up, and it's pretty much conjunct the sun. And Thetis was the mother of Achilles, so one of the greatest heroes. And her spouse was Zeus. So
Hmm.
interesting that a mother, and a partner of two of the most powerful beings, that would be Zeus being Jupiter, and then Achilles. I don't know what the extension of symbolism would be for Achilles, but that's really interesting that that's on the sun in Taurus. And this tension with this Scorpio moon is a shadow that's hiding some big things that are happening geopolitically, I would imagine. And with Uranus there and the Cassimi coming soon, and Dorje will break down the Cassimi because he has a more nuanced understanding of it. But as I see it with the Cassimi, it's very interesting because Uranus in conjunction to the sun is somehow loses its power in the middle of the sun and can only act in a spiritual manner, in its spiritual essence. And so when that happens following the full moon, as we've been discussing after it, there will be sudden shifts and changes. And I'll stop there and let Dorje add some insights.
Obviously, when you have a full moon, you're talking about a polarity of energies. You're talking about, in this case, Taurus, which is the seeking of peace and stability, and then Scorpio, which is the lust for, and lust is a Mars word, lust for transformation, change, instability, and going deep into the transformative nature of being incarnated. It's a little bit of the opposite. Like the Buddha as a Taurus figure is into the peaceful nature, like the pulling out of the experience of incarnation. And Scorpio, on the other hand, it's the going deep into the experience and living it fully. So then right now there might be this desire for peace that's coming through the sun in Taurus, this desire for stability, the desire for enjoyment. But there's this, well, what has to be changed and transformed first? What has to be torn apart and picked apart? And what kind of like ways and assumptions, structures that are creating the reality that are false assumptions? And then those false assumptions making the experience of peace impossible. So that moon is shining the light, the full light of the moon is going on to, well, these are the hidden resources and assumptions, and these are the hidden problems that are making it so that the peace can't be possible. One really interesting thing that's happened in this skirmish between Pakistan and India is Pakistan has been buying Chinese fighter planes, warplanes, and the Chinese warplanes had never gone up against Western warplanes. And in the air skirmish, the Pakistani Air Force dominated the Indian Air Force. And the Indian Air Force was flying French Rafale warplanes, fourth generation. And the Chinese Air Force, I believe, was flying Chinese J-10, 4.5 generation. And they were armed with over-the-horizon missiles that could go up to Mach 5. And they shot down five of these French warplanes, at least five of them. And so then this assumption that India was this huge military power and could bully around Pakistan has been completely torn aside. Light has been shined onto it. And light has also been shined onto, well, the Chinese have a really good military capacity that they're now exporting to the rest of the world. And the dominant powers in the world are no longer going to be just those powers that get their warplanes from Europe and America. They're also going to be powers that get their warplanes from China. And what does that mean geopolitically? So there's this new light being shined on the nature of war and conflict and struggle geopolitically that hasn't been there before. And exactly in that way, within our own lives, then it's what are you struggling with right now? You should be having a light shined on it right now. And you should be seeing, like, oh, this is how I can start working with this and dealing with this. But it's different than what my previous assumptions were. And I think that is a lot of what this full moon is about. It's about how do I move forward with a new understanding of how my previous assumptions were not serving me. And what kind of changes do I need to make in my routines, which is, Taurus is such a routine-based sign. It is such a sign of like this is how my comfort zone, and here I am living in my comfort zone. I don't know. I mean, have you ever like tried to get a tourist to do something they didn't want to? You know, they like like the ideal image of a tourist is someone sitting on a couch, eating a bag of potatoes, watching TV all day long, and completely comfortable with it. Maybe that's not the ideal image of a tourist, but sometimes I kind of see tourists in that way. They're like, I am just sitting here doing my thing in my world and enjoying it. And Scorpio's like, oh, no, you're not, man. I'm going to find that emotional crack and I'm going to leverage it open and I'm going to really dive into it and break you apart. And so this full moon is that kind of like dynamic opposition between the two. And within yourself, like, what are your routines that are preventing you from moving forward? That's part of what this light is being shined on here. Because this full moon is not, in my opinion, a gentle full moon. It's the last full moon before Saturn moves into Aries. It's
Yeah.
the last full moon of Saturn in Pisces. It is the last full moon of this kind of like, well, we're just trying to hold it all together before we enter the Saturn moving into Aries and the destruction of the structures that we have been relying upon and the rebirthing of new structures. So there's a lot of like soul seeking in this full moon. What do you think?
I was thinking of the adjectives of sudden indulgences, sudden release
Mm,
of appetites. Because with
hmm
Taurus season, we want to take care of the body. We want to, or not even take care of it, but as you were saying, we want the body to be in whatever, whatever state we choose.
Yep.
Sit on the couch all day, or if we want to go to a spa, or if we want to go for a long walk. I mean, we want to be in the senses. We're in spring right now, so we want to smell and see all the colors and images in the sky. It's starting to get sunny in some places. We want to see the sunshine and feel its effect on our body. That's all a brilliant experience, I feel, of this Taurus season. But with this tension in Scorpio, we can't do it. We can't do it.
Mm,
And I haven't been able to. I've tried. I have some Taurus signatures in my chart, and I do make the time to indulge in sunlight. But once after that's done, I feel I'm in this Scorpio maze and I'm
hmm
obsessing with doing this way, but now I want to do it that way. So it's already happening, what you
mm,
said about reassessing how we're organizing our day to day, how we're shifting decisions and how we're doing things. And oh, no, let's do it this way. I reflect on others. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's probably best to do it this way or that way. Because I don't always know right away. And none of us always know right away the most efficient way to do something. So we need
Yep.
time and space for permutations to come about and for that kind of last second or moment prior where we're like, oh, let's shift that a little. Wait a second. Okay, let's do it that way. And that's very unsettling to Taurian energy. I said we're going to do it this way. This is how, you know what I mean? So there is an unsettlingness, I think, that I've been feeling with this full moon coming up. If anything, that's what I've been feeling is like, how am I doing things? Why, how can I do things more efficiently without getting frustrated by this or with that? And so let me add some nuance here with the chart. So you guys can see Moon is conjunct Juno. So the arrow of the full moon, it's kind of a two-way arrow, but it's in the direction of the moon at 22 degrees. So we got Juno at 24. And Juno's about commitment. So if peace deals are being brokered, then there is present the energy, or at least the attempt to commit to something, right? And if it's peace deals, then that's one of the themes of what political parties or countries are attempting to meet. But with this
Mm.
question of Uranus, like you're saying, it's very unsettled. Or is this the deal? Or are we doing this? Or what if that? And so it feels like a building chaos with Uranus.
Yeah, like just going back to India, Narendra Modi's the Prime Minister of India, his Mars is at 24 degrees Scorpio. I just do not feel like he is like, yeah, let's make peace yet. I don't think he's going to be in that frame of mind because that Mars is getting activated for him right now. That desire to like just tear it up. He's a strong man. He's been a strong man Indian prime minister. If he doesn't come out on top of this conflict, this is the end of his political career. And so he can't back down in a way without something that shows saves his face. And Pakistan has launched cruise missiles, or I think there were cruise missiles. They might have been ballistic missiles onto Indian air bases and Indian arms depots and shot down Indian planes. And there's been nothing coming out yet about how India's been dominating the sphere of this war at all. So I don't think we're going to see the end of this yet. I don't think there's a peace deal brokered until Modi, who's got his Mars hypercharged by this full moon, feels like he's exerted some level of dominance over the experience or the situation. And that's what that Scorpio full moon wants to do. It's not like, hey, I'm just going to go sit back and enjoy the sun with my feet in the flowers just while sitting on the grass and the bees are buzzing about, which is like a much better kind of like a symbol or expression of Taurus than you threw, with like the couch potato. It's like lying in the grass with the dandelions blossoming around you and the butterflies and the birds and the bees, and I like watching the beautiful things as they walk by. That's a much better symbol of Taurus. But this Scorpio moon wants some kind of like power or authority or deep change to occur. It's very unsettled. It's very unsettling, and it's going to be pushing to make a change because it is opposed that Sun conjunct Uranus chasm, or conjunction, that Uranus conjunction, which is about making a change, about making some kind of deep change to make things work in a way more aligned with our own souls. And if we're going to go geopolitically, Pakistan, India, I mean, I got to be careful what I say here because there's like over 1.4 billion people that might disagree with me if I say the wrong thing. 1.4 billion people, that is a lot of people. That's like an eighth of the population of the planet is involved in this full moon on personal stakes. That's heavy, right? But I think that there's some kind of like readjustment of the understanding of what reality is that's occurring with this full moon, not just geopolitically, but also for ourselves.
We also have some kind of lighter aspects. We have Jupiter. It looks like it's in conjunct to the moon. Jupiter's conjuncting Dejanira, and Dejanira was the victim of Nessus. She was the wife of Hercules, and Nessus attempted to rape her, and then Hercules killed Nessus, and then she poisoned Hercules. But anyways, the point is she was a victim of Nessus. And so we have Jupiter conjunct. So this is victimhood energy. This is like someone being
Mm,
a victim of some extreme. And Jupiter is squaring Saturn about 3-4 degrees
yeah.
up here in the context of what's going on. And then we have Venus, which is not so much in the context of what's going on, except that it's kind of close to the Aries vortex, the Aries vanishing point. We have Venus conjunct the Child asteroid, which is really interesting because Child is kind of like the moon. It's the deepest heart of a person. You could use
Hmm.
Child asteroid instead of the moon if you're looking for deep heart connections with another person. And here conjunct Venus is like I was saying, it's like the other alternative is to celebrate Taurian sensualism, and the colors and the environment and the life that's bursting forth right now. Hopefully, if you're not having allergies and, bad reactions to it. What it is, this geopolitical mess in a way. It's kind of like allergies to let's just enjoy, the sensuality of Taurian season. Instead, it's like dealing with just continuing unsettling, unpredictable, chaotic circumstances.
For sure. And I'm glad you brought up the inconjunct with Jupiter. That inconjunct with Jupiter, it's kind of interesting because again, I mentioned that like the Trump admin was like, hey, we just negotiated the peace deal. We worked at it all night and they were like super happy. And then it all just fell apart again and they started shelling each other over Kashmir once again. And that Jupiter is conjunct Trump's sun currently. It's 1 degree off conjunct Trump's
Right.
sun and North Node. And it's in Gemini, which is like, hey, I just did this and that and communicated. And in conjunct, it's like, no, they didn't see each other. You guys totally missed each other on that. You thought that this is what you were getting, but this is actually what was happening. Because oftentimes that's what an inconjunct is. It's a tension with what you think reality is versus what it actually is, and the inability to reconcile that, whether it's within your own chart or whether it's in a mundane chart. It's the tension from the inability to reconcile what is not seen, but is having an emotional, psychological, or material effect. And that is at play here. There is this kind of like, well, the full moon is saying we need to permanently change this, and we're activating Modi's Mars, and we're getting, we're in a state of aggression to see which country is dominant, and India is so used to being dominant in the situation. And versus this, like, well, the reality is something that neither one of the countries are seeing yet. And that might go towards what you're saying, that we don't get the real piece of the situation over the next 2 weeks until that Jupiter ingresses into Taurus, or that Saturn ingresses into Aries, and we get the Jupiter Saturn square, which is when's that looking at? That's like May 25th, May 25th all the way
No, the
through to like
Jupiter,
June
Jupiter
9th.
stands for,
So May 25th, I believe, is going to be the Saturn ingressing into Aries. And then we get Jupiter ingressing into Cancer on June 11th to June 10th. So we've got like 3 weeks of this kind of like back and forth and settling out. And they're both nuclear powers. And they both have strains of apocalyptic fundamentalism within their government. And so two nuclear powers at war with strains of apocalyptic fundamentalism in the way they think is really not something that's good for the world. So hopefully this all kind of like moves forward in the next 3 weeks. The promise of the Jupiter and Taurus manifests as like, okay, well, we've uncovered a new reality and now we can negotiate into the way forward. But to do that, there has to be this understanding of what that unseen Jupiter Gemini principle is manifesting either in the mundane world, but also in our own life. And to me, that is communication. That is the openness to the energies that are unfolding in the world around you are not hostile. They're forms of communication. And so then you take that communication and you hear what it is, and it's helping your soul adjust to what is appropriate in its reality right now.
oh, well said. I don't know what I can add to that other than underscoring that a couple days later, May 17th, as we kind of move through the month and this 2 weeks of this full moon, the Uranus conjunct Kazemi is just ever inching us closer to May 25th, which really is the big deal this month and huge big deal of the year. I think June 11th, as you noted, with the Jupiter coming into Cancer and then squaring both Saturn and Neptune, eventually, directly, or exactly, is a huge deal. So this is all building up also to June. And the big buildup for this month is the May 25th Saturn conjunct the Aries ingress in
Yeah.
the Aries, because now structure is being imposed on our Neptunian imagination. So all that we've been seeing and imagining is real or true or is not, our lack of ability, our struggle to keep hold of what is really occurring and what is not, because there's always the screen, there's always Scorpio energy, or there's always eclipse energy, which hides what's really happening. And so
Hmm.
we get only part of the show, and then we have to and that's the same with ourselves. We only get part of our show. Our mind can't contain the day. Our mind attempts to organize our life, but there's so many intuitive and emotional expressions of our energy that we can't always even really know. All we can do is drive the car and kind of turn left when it's correct to turn left. You know what I mean? We can't always
Hmm.
plan. So yeah, so the buildup is really powerful in the end of the month as this full moon wanes into a new moon on the 30th is a big shift.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you really hit something on the head there, and I do think we should put out a Saturn in Aries episode because this really keys into that, which is what is Saturn in Aries? On one level, I think Saturn in Pisces was about containing your psychic emotions and expressions and what you're taking in from the universe and what you're and I think Saturn in Aries is about learning to contain your energy and to direct it in appropriate ways. And so then I feel like that's part of what we're also moving into here is, well, if we have so much uncertainty in the world right now and so much questions about what is true and what is real, because we're living in a post-truth society, a post-truth world where anybody can, without any type of, real documented research that is commonly agreed upon, post something on the internet. And, and even AI is posting things on the internet all over the place now without any type of verification other than its own
With no
self-referencing
sources
verification,
and no
you
sources.
know. And so then we need to become really good at containing our own energy. And I think that's going to be a big part of what that Saturn and Aries lesson is going to be. And as anybody who follows our YouTube channel knows, like when we talk about a planet ingressing into a new sign, that moment of ingress is when the lesson for that sign is presented. Just like the moment of the first hit of a outer transit is when the lesson of that transit is presented. And then the rest of the movement through that sign becomes, are you able to master this or not?
I have nothing to add to that except right on that point, you see the conjunction with the asteroid Ceres, and Ceres is the mother archetype and principle, and it's right there conjunct Saturn, and it's on the pretty much close right there on the Aries ingress. So all this touching in of the Aries vanishing point, ingress, vortex, whatever you want to call it, for these next 2 years is, as Dorje noted, it's a new birth, it's a new way, and it's a new way of managing our energy. That's so perfect,
Hmm.
said, man, because that's all we can do is manage our
Right.
energy.
Well, thank you, Meten, for the opportunity to explore this full moon. We're looking to make this regular series, the full moon report. And what I like about everybody does new moon reports, but what we're trying to do here with the full moon report, which I really like, is when you're at the full moon, the crisis of the month is really at its head. And you can use that to like look into not only the mundane world and how astrology is affecting that, but also how we're relating to those energies and how they're playing and the similarities between them archetypally. And everybody has their views about like how, the politics of it or the meaning of it. But the symbols are really pronounced and really visible and really clear to see during the full moon in a way where I'm not sure that they're always revealed yet during the new moon. And so we're looking to do the full moon report in order to examine like what are these symbols that are really at the height of the consciousness in the world right now? What are that personal consciousness and global consciousness?
Man, so well said. I have nothing to add. Thanks so much, everyone, for watching. I'm Mario or Meten at plutonicplanes.com, and I have my YouTube, Plutonic Planes, and Dorje has his Heart Astrology website and his YouTube as well. Your YouTube's under Heart Astrology, correct or no?
It is, yeah, hard astrology. Right now on my YouTube channel, I'm working through Bonatti's 146 considerations. I'm trying to post one consideration a day. Some of them are rather long, so it's a little bit hard to get to. But under the guidance and encouragement of my friend Matan, I'm trying to post one consideration a day.
All right, thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
We're gonna do the Saturn ingress. See you guys.